The Golden Temple in Amritsar, the Sikhs' holiest shrine. In June 1984, after a long build-up of tension in the Punjab, the temple was attacked by the Indian Army. Around the world, Sikhs reacted with horror.
The Golden Temple means more than what we can describe in words. It means everything. The feeling was so harsh.
As we entered, we looked at the bullet marks, and both of us stood there and wept. Stood there helpless.
In the resulting battle, at least 500 Sikhs and 80 government troops died. The Indian government went in with the aim of flushing out terrorists. Among the dead, the Sikh leader Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale, whose followers had turned the complex into an armed camp. Sikhs worship in brotherhood, a God of love and compassion. But recently in Britain, Sikh has been set violently against Sikh. There have been fights in temples and bitter legal disputes. What, in the face of these divisions, does it mean to be a Sikh in Britain today? This is the most important day in 16-year-old Harbhajan Singh's life. In a ceremony in Bradford, he's to be baptised a true Sikh. From now on, he'll always wear traditional symbols, including uncut hair.
We Sikhs don't cut our hair because we like to keep our natural appearance that God has given us. If you have a Sikh with cut hair, you cannot really identify him for a Sikh because you may think he's a Muslim or a Hindu. It's traditional, really, to wear a turban. It's very precious to Sikh people, though. It's like a crown.
Sikhism's early spiritual masters believe that Sikhs who publicly demonstrate their religion by wearing a turban are more likely to remain loyal to that faith.
When I first started to tie my turban, it used to take me 10 minutes. But now I can do it in about 3 minutes. I just wrap it around quickly and it's pretty smart.
The strangest of the symbols is the dagger.
We wear a dagger because it reminds us to fight for justice. It is not to hurt anybody, it's symbolic.
In a private ceremony in a Bradford temple, Harbhajan and others join the worldwide community of baptised Sikhs. The temple's called a Gurdwara, or House of God. The whisk is a sign of respect to the holy book below it, which contains the wisdom and collected hymns, mostly of Sikhism's early spiritual masters, or gurus. The local religious leader warns Harbhajan and the others of the seriousness of the steps they are now taking. One of the world's newer religions, Sikhism was developed 500 years ago in India. Unlike Hindus who worship God in many forms, Sikhs worship one God who has never taken human form. Being baptized is to be spiritually reborn. During the ceremony, they take Amrit, a nectar representing immortality. Once this very private ceremony begins, all outsiders withdraw. Two hours later, Harbhajan and the others join the main congregation. Their hymn celebrates the privilege and responsibility of taking Amrit. Harbhajan must now make a public declaration of his private vows. He's promised to wear the Sikh symbols and to worship regularly. He's now asked to tell the congregation what actions he must avoid. Unlike most Sikhs in Britain, Harbhajan also promises to be a vegetarian. He knows all this will not be easy.
You have to pray in the morning. It takes about 1.5 hours. And then in the evening, at 6 o'clock, you say another prayer. And then before retiring to bed, you say another. So that's 7 prayers a day. Altogether, totally in about 2.5 hours. I think it is going to be a bit hard for me. But I shall try my best to keep the vows.
From now on, Harbhajan, like other baptized men, will be called Singh, which means lion. Women take the name Kaur or princess. Loyalty and spiritual friendship are at the heart of this ceremony, but the sense of community inside this temple is threatened outside, for Britain's 300,000 Sikhs are deeply divided. The circle at the centre of the Sikh symbol is a sign of unity. Since the attack on the Golden Temple, that unity has been severely shaken. July 1984, Kartar Singh Tar died when arsonists firebombed his pro-Indian government Southall newspaper. November 1985, Pargat Singh, the leader of a Sikh youth organisation, was stabbed in Hitchin, Hertfordshire. He survived. In the same month, Chohan Singh Lidder, a British Sikh politician, was shot in the face at his Luton store. He too survived. January 1986, Tarsem Singh Toor, another Sikh politician, was shot in the face and murdered at his shop in Southall, West London. Darshan Das Vesdev, here in white, was the latest victim of violence. This leader of an Indian religious sect was shot before his followers, many of them Sikhs, at a West London school. 2 others have since died. To explain what's happening, some Sikhs believe it's necessary to delve not only into recent events, but also into the Sikh past. The psychology of persecution is deeply embedded in the Sikh view of history.
Sikh history is a history of intense persecution right from the founding of the religion. More than 500 years ago, Sikhs have experienced wave after wave of persecution. First of all, it was the Mughals who were determined to have no other religion in India except Islam. Sikhs taught that all religions are paths to God and no religion has a monopoly of truth. Because of these fundamental teachings, Sikhs experienced a lot of persecution. The 5th Guru, who founded the Golden Temple, was tortured to death. The 9th Guru was publicly beheaded for upholding the right of Hindus to worship in the manner of their choice. That's Hindus, not Sikhs. So this aspect of religious tolerance is very strong in Sikhism. And as a result, there has been a lot of persecution. Sikhism teaches that it's right and proper to resist any intolerance, any deprivation of social justice, any attack of that sort. It's right for the individual, it's right for the religion to resist that.
Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale was a religious leader who also became a political and military leader, convinced that persecution of Sikhs continued in modern post-independence India. From his headquarters in the Golden Temple complex, he made extreme allegations against the government.
Sikh ਇਸ ਰੂਪ ਨੂੰ ਪਸੰਦ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਖਤਮ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਆਸ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਪੂਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਣੀ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਸਰੂਪ ਨੂੰ ਖਤਮ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲੀਆਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਹਕੂਮਤਾਂ ਹੋ ਗੁਜ਼ਰੀਆਂ, ਇਹਨੇ ਵੀ ਉਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਚਲੀ ਜਾਣਾ।
Bhindranwale's followers eventually turned the temple complex into an arsenal, while long and eventually unsuccessful negotiations between the government and local politicians demanding greater Sikh autonomy in the Punjab continued. Most Indians saw Bhindranwale's tactics as a fanatical overreaction. They dismissed the claims of widespread persecution as fantasy. Eventually, the Indian government's patience ran out. It attacked the temple when it believed it was being used as a base for terrorism. The attack appalled moderate as well as militant Sikhs. It made the previous claims of persecution seem more plausible despite the contrary evidence.
Sikhs have played a prominent role in the social, political, and the industrial life of the country. Now, you won't expect a community being persecuted and yet occupying the prominent or playing a prominent role in the government of the country. Unfortunately, the government allowed certain political complaints to drag on long enough without taking any effective actions. So much that the political situation became worst, so that when the action was taken, the timing and the manner of the attack on Golden Temple was such that it gave credence to the view that Sikhs were being persecuted.
Emotions in the Sikh community were heightened further after the events that followed the revenge murder of India's Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Four months after the Golden Temple attack, Mrs. Gandhi was assassinated by 2 Sikh bodyguards. Anti-Sikh riots broke out. In the burnings, killings and lootings that followed, thousands of Sikhs were killed or injured in the capital Delhi. Hindus too were to suffer in their thousands, the main victims of terrorism by Sikh separatists against the Indian government. The violence does not have the backing of most Sikhs in India. Only a tiny minority want an independent state. This is the human cost of a campaign by militant Sikhs for an independent homeland in the Punjab, Khalistan. A world away from the Punjab, Khalistan has its supporters in this country also. 9 p.m. Gurnam Singh is on his way to sing hymns with friends in a wealthy Birmingham suburb. Gurnam Singh's friends belong to a fundamentalist religious group which has close links with violent separatists in the Punjab. They seem a people in exile. Many do not speak English. Worship is their inspiration for what they see as a just war.
It's a great feeling. When you are in the congregation, it's just the soul. You don't even feel your body there, especially when you're singing and you've been singing for 2 or 3 hours. It's just that you're part of a spirit. Singing the word of God, the Guru's hymns, that is where we get our inspiration to fight and become one with God.
The hymns of the Sikh Gurus are like psalms, hymns of praise and majesty. But the ones chosen tonight speak of martyrdom and persecution. is the religious face of Babbar Khalsa. Gurmej Singh Gill is the host of the hymn singing. But Mr. Gill also regards himself as the Prime Minister of Khalistan, though few, even in India, would recognise his rule. In ceremonial dress, he cuts an unusual figure on a suburban Birmingham housing estate. From a tiny semi-detached house, he runs an information centre about Khalistan.
Babbar Khalsa House, Babbar Khalsa International. Babbar Anok Singh, yes, they have shot him in a fake police encounter about 2 weeks ago. This is what we have heard. And
accounts and rumours like this of alleged Indian police brutality worry many Sikhs. They fuel Babbar Khalsa's dreams of Khalistan. The word Babbar Khalsa means pure lions, but the pride is a small one. They claim about 500 or 600 members in Britain. They've even adapted the Sikh symbol by adding crossed guns to show the militancy of their desire to save Sikhism. Posters on the wall reveal a highly emotional mix of religion and politics. The self-image is of a brave but persecuted minority. But outside this small office, the search for a solution to the problems of the Punjab has divided Britain's Sikhs.
The community seems to be split on how to deal with the situation in Punjab. There are those who would like to pursue the path of separatism, but there's a growing majority of Sikhs who would rather like to work and bring about change within India democratically.
Sucha Singh Atwal belongs to a political party that supports such democratic solutions. 2 years ago he was shot in what a judge later described as a politically motivated crime. 2 youths attacked him one night as he was cashing up at his Derby service station.
Well, the two lads came about 9:20 in the garage. Well, they just came in and didn't say anything. And I asked him, I said, yes, can I help you? And they got in under his glove, right, small gun, right. Soon he lifted his hand. I saw the gun did a knock, right, and I just fired it. Soon he pressed the button, right, and I just lie this side. Then bullet go to the in the ball, right. I got just little piece in my chest.
Today Mr. Atwal will make no political comment at all. He's not alone. Most of the shootings have been arranged by Sikhs. The victims, usually Sikhs willing to compromise with the Indian government. Many with those views are now frightened to speak out.
The majority community is mute or has been silenced by intimidation of those who would like them to remain silent. And the attacks, the recent attacks on some Sikh leaders indicate that there is a fear in the minds of majority of Sikh members of Sikh community, that they find it reluctant to come out openly and voice their views and be counted.
And with that, the very, very best dance record of 1987. This is Rick Astley, and I'm Never Gonna Give You Up.
To some religious Sikhs, there's another threat to Sikhism, possibly even more potent than events in India, the glossy appeal of Western ways. In this Birmingham disco, Ranjit Singh couldn't care less about the arguments for or against Khalistan. He's totally rejected Sikhism. He now calls himself James Sterling.
Sikhism religion is strict. My parents, they want to pray every day. You just stay at home, eat no one else's food, just your own. And you have to do so many things every day. And can't smoke, can't drink. Can't go out with girls, can't go to nightclubs. And I wanted to do all those things living in England. And so eventually it came to a point where I couldn't take it no more. and just cut my hair, had a shave, just left home to get away from everything, because all the pressure from my family.
James Sterling is one of many young British Sikhs who've drifted away from their traditional religious culture. Today he and others walk away from the religious values of their families. It was to draw people like James Sterling back to Sikhism, especially after the Golden Temple attack, that a new militant element has entered British Sikhism. Dr. Jasdev Singh heads a pro-Khalistan group called the International Sikh Youth Federation. It's influential in many British temples. He says it's rejuvenating Sikhism, but it's provoked vociferous complaints from the Indian government to the British government. Some members are also in jail for violence, including conspiracy to murder.
The International Sikh Youth Federation was another organisation that sprang into being as a result of the attack on the Golden Temple. It has a lot of support amongst young Sikhs in particular, amongst the young Sikhs from Punjab. Many of the lesser educated Sikhs belong to the International Sikh Youth Federation.
But it's also attracted educated Sikhs like these two brothers from the Midlands. One is a computer programmer, the other an engineering inspector. They say the Golden Temple attack transformed their lives.
Well, it turned my life upside down. And before '84, I wasn't interested at all in politics, like most people. But since '84, my number one aim is to create Khalistan.
Before '84, I was not a bit religious, and the only two main things in my life was football and pub. And I was also clean-shaven. That means I didn't wear turban, I didn't have beard, I didn't have long hair, which are vital for all practicing Sikh. At the moment, my main aim is going to the temple every Sunday and any weekdays whenever I can.
The opponents of the Youth Federation, to which Govinda and Gurjit belong, say its influence is disproportionate to the number of its activists. Its new brand of fundamentalism has in some British temples been met by more conflict. Once again, the ideal of Sikh unity has been severely shaken. March 1986, Manor Park Temple, East London. A violent fight. 5 men were later jailed on charges ranging from grievous bodily harm to affray. June 1986, Coventry, Harnell Lane. A fight in the temple. Disturbances and other dates also. May 1987, Kent. A temple battle involving ceremonial swords, koshes, daggers and an ice pick. 4 men taken to hospital, one with his throat cut.
These disputes are not new. Sikhs can tend to be a little volatile, but there has been a new dimension superimposed on the old democratic wranglings for power in Gurdwara management, and that is the politics of India.
One of the best-known temples in Britain, Havelock Road in Southall, London, has also suffered a bitter dispute. Since 1985, it's been closely linked with the International Sikh Youth Federation. The outside of this converted old dairy displays pro-Khalistan and other political posters. Harcharan Singh is one of the congregation now running the temple. The new team allege that in the old days, pre-1985, the temple was poorly run, its finances and committee elections mismanaged. Now they say things are much better.
We've made a lot of changes. We've had a new kitchen put in. We have classes here in the evenings for the elders, if any elder wants to learn recital of the Holy Book. We're having Punjabi classes for children so they know what the teachings is from the Holy Book. Rather than them going into the wrong mischiefs of smoking, drinking or drugs, we're trying to bring them back into line of the way Sikhism should be. In the last 4 years or 3 years now, I've known more about Sikhism than I've learned in the last 20 years.
But just down the road at Park Avenue, they regard with scorn such claims to be rejuvenating Sikhism. This rival temple was recently opened by people once in charge at Havelock Road.
ਪ੍ਰਭ ਨਾਨਕ ਬੰਧਨ ਛੋੜ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਸਤਨਾਮ
The people running this temple say they were doing a good job at Havelock Road until they were ousted illegally in 1985. They've scant regard for the young newcomers at the other temple.
They are making a mockery of religion. I think they don't know ABC of the Sikh religion. I feel guilty that we were unable to teach them how to behave in a Sikh religion. I feel saddened by their actions. I want to bring them to the point where they feel, I feel that the community feel that they are following the teaching of the Sikh gurus.
As in many of the temple disputes, personal squabbles and rivalries seem to swirl around those who just want to worship. In this dispute, complex court cases costing thousands of pounds have led to great bitterness. When Bayant Singh last visited Havelock Road with a policeman to collect temple money, he met sharp hostility.
I went inside, paid my respect to the holy book, sat there. The General Secretary of the unofficial committee rose to the platform and read a resolution that due to the presence of Mr. Bayant Singh, there is going to be a disturbance inside the temple. We request him to leave the temple or the people might beat him. Then when he said that resolution, the people start chanting, "Kill Bayant Singh, kill Bayant Singh." I silently rose, go to the book, came outside the temple, and they were shouting, raising their hand, "Kill Bayant Singh, kill Bayant Singh."
Although there's no doubt Bayant Singh was no longer welcome at Havelock Road, the congregation says no force was used against him. At the heart of this temple dispute and others involving congregations influenced by the ISYF is an argument about power. Are unrepresentative activists taking control undemocratically? Or do they have, as they claim, the backing of congregations? In a number of temple disputes, the courts have imposed elections to test that question. But the federation led by Dr. Jasdev Singh is opposed to them in principle.
You can't have religious institutions run on lines of who is popular and who is not. Elections are fine in a political situation, in secular systems, but not in religious systems. I know of no religion which has elections.
But isn't this argument merely a ploy to avoid being voted out? Jasdev Singh says not. He argues from Sikh tradition.
The tradition is that the congregation selects 5 baptized Sikhs who then select a committee to run the affairs of the Gurdwara. But we have people who impose elections upon us, which are secular systems. And with elections, you have 2 parties, naturally, in a holy congregation, which leads to fights and conflicts.
But surely could it not be said if you are in a dispute, then aren't elections a practical way to try and resolve that dispute?
I think there have been many disputes about the popes in the world, and they've never been resolved by mass elections. Neither are the splits in the Church of England been resolved by elections.
But many Sikhs say that for years elections have been common here and in India. To outsiders, these arguments seem obscure, but they are at root about who has power, and that's a cause of temple fights.
It is naive to think that one can select without any dispute. Disputes are resolved in a much better way, much easier, by democratic means through an election.
But what about the argument that elections in fact lead to confrontation rather than the emergence of consensus within the congregation?
Well, how would you get emergence of consensus without difference of opinion?
Well, say by nominating 5 people who would 5 people who are respected members of the congregation who would choose the committee.
Who will define the respected members of the committee? Who will define the 5? How will you define the 5? This is a problem. You are faced with election one way or the other.
But back at Havelock Road, elections are no longer of much interest. Other things concern them more, among them Jasveer Singh. These musicians are singing about Jasveer Singh, who for nearly 3 years has been held without trial in Indian jails. He's the nephew of Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale and founded the British branch of the ISYF. Songs like this are rarely filmed. This song is typical of many being sung by travelling musicians in certain Sikh temples up and down the country.
I think all religions are political. If you look at the Bible, read the Bible, it's very political in many ways. It's very, very important that the congregation be told about what is going on.
But is the Gurdwara itself an appropriate place for such a very political message?
I think the pulpit is used as a political place. The Gurdwara is a good place where you can talk about the threat to religion.
Whether or not Jasveer Singh's detention is a threat to religion, Mr Babbar of the Ramguria Council, for one, thinks that temples are not the right place for politics. Yet couldn't that really mean allowing in temples the sort of politics he likes, but banning the sort he dislikes?
Oh no, not at all, not for a moment. It's not what I like, it's what Guru says. Guru doesn't say that you should have political party A here, not political party B here, political party C here, not D here. There are people of all various colors, shades, religious faiths come into the Gurdwara. It is not at that stage practical, proper to start preaching about a particular party, about a particular group. If that particular group or a party want to give their message, they should have it in their own separate organizations.
ਅਸੀਂ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਭੰਡਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਅੱਤਵਾਦੀ ਹੈ ਇਹ
A platform speech at Havelock Road. The speaker is saying that Khalistanis are not extremists, but are only trying to save their nation. Before the attack on the Golden Temple, most Sikhs regarded those who advocated Khalistan as mere dreamers. Today, support is stronger, though estimates of how strong vary widely. To the Indian government, such politicisation of probably 30% or more of British Sikh temples is of considerable concern. But of equal concern is what extremists, including certain members of the ISYF, have been doing outside the temples. Some ISYF members are now in jail on grave charges of violence. A Leicester member, Sukhvinder Singh Gill, was jailed for 14 years for conspiring to murder the Indian Prime Minister in 1985. The former president of Gravesend ISYF, Solakan Singh Surai, was jailed for life this year for conspiring to murder a pro-Indian government Sikh politician. I asked Jasdev Singh how his youth federation can claim to be a religious organisation and yet have leading members in jail on such charges.
My members are in jail because of conspiracy between the British government and the Indian government. It happens internationally in many countries. The MI5 is, I think, responsible for these setups.
But do you condemn or support the violence?
Where? Violence where?
Following the court cases in which some of your members have been found guilty.
None of my members are guilty. I don't believe in the present British justice system.
These claims are dismissed as absurd by the Indian High Commission and the British government. Sikhs in general feel the attacks here are blackening their good name.
Well, I think Sikh community at large feels shattered and gravely disappointed at the turn of events. The killings and murder of our own members of our own community are being perceived as something dastardly. Such activities coming from our own members simply because others do not seem to hold the same view, seem abhorrent.
Right, jumping on the spot. As high as possible. Get some spring. Off the board. Off the board of the heat.
Morning exercises at an annual summer camp. It's being run by another group, the Sikh Missionary Society. This is passionately concerned for the good name of British Sikhs.
Punch. Punch. Double punch. Punch. Punch.
Here punching is for exercise, not war. 100 young Sikhs wearing the traditional Sikh colours come from all over England to learn about their history, religion and culture.
The best thing you actually get out of the camp is that you gain self-satisfaction out of it, really. You have a feeling of community. You meet a lot of different people here. You wouldn't have a chance to do that any other time. And you have a week to make friends and talk and exchange views on what their lives are like and what our lives are like. And generally make friends and music. Music is the best thing you get out of this camp. As you wake up in the mornings, when you sing the prayers in the mornings, it's, you feel as if you're floating. It's amazing. It really is.
Major aim of the summer camp is to give them a sense of identity and to help them to experience this practical Sikh way of life. Also to give them understanding of their faith, beliefs and some cultural values so that they develop these personal qualities in their later life and be good Sikhs and member of the local community.
Now, what is happening in Punjab, why does it affect us, right? The reason why it affects us, firstly, is because our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors are from Punjab.
Even at this summer school, the political problems of the Punjab appear. The seminar was introduced into the annual programme after the attack on the Golden Temple. One sharp question went to the heart of the problems of Sikhs in Britain.
The Sikhs are all split up now into different groups like the Federation, Babbar, Khalsa and etc. Why is this for?
I can answer that by looking back into history. Unification, if you look throughout Sikh history, unification has never been there. Of course, unification is the ideal thing, but in any country, anywhere in the world, you will not find total unity. Remember, Sikhs still believe in freedom of speech. Why can't we talk to other people? Why can't we heckle? Why can't we argue? As long as it doesn't become physical.
Sikhs have two sides. He can be a saint as well as a soldier. The gurus have prepared us for both sides of the coin. We have to meditate. And a Sikh will always fight against injustice.
Soldiers and saints. Which side of Sikhism young Sikhs emphasise in future will decide whether one day this becomes more than just an exercise.
Punch!
Everyman.